Follow the prophet. Follow the prophet. Follow the prophet.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is losing a record number of its membership.
Travis Wingoodsill. Today there will be a total solar eclipse down at the tip of South America. So, apparently 3 weeks ago, after I'd been doing a big push to notify you guys about me being the cause of the loss of the church members from activity, John Dehlin came out to counter and say, "It's me, I'm the one, give me the glory." So let's go over Mormonism in the 21st century on Wikipedia. And go back to 2009. In 2009, September 14th, an LDS edition of the Bible is published in Spanish. Now, for those of you who didn't go to a Spanish-speaking mission and therefore did not buy the LDS edition of the Bible in Spanish, as required for your mission, you may not have known about it. And if you're not taking advantage of scripture study online, you may not be aware of what's called the gospel. Oh my God. Guide to the Scriptures. If you have obtained the Scripture CD program, let's see if I have it readily accessible. Oh, yeah. Now I have to bring the computer or the camera on the screen. This version, it's a CD-ROM. There was a version that came out in 2001. This is copyrighted 2001. Yeah, it's this version that I have on my computer. It's what we used when I was working on what became the 2009 Spanish edition. And no, I didn't do the Spanish version. We did the English version. And then we had translators in the group that was doing this to make the translation into Spanish, which was not too complicated. They already had the version of the Bible they were using. They just needed Spanish speakers to make sure that in English, if a reference to a guide to the Scriptures that replaced the Bible dictionary and the topical guide does correspond with the translation into Spanish. So, if we're talking about repentance in the English version, and we're footnoting to repentance, we need to make sure that it's not faith in Spanish. That's an extreme, but that's how I can explain it to you. That's why they were needed, is to make sure that translation of the Spanish harmonized with the English, because the church refuses to render a correct translation of the English. And so yeah, the September 4th release was what I had been involved with. And I've told you all about the stories of why homosexuality is emphasized over the rich neglecting the poor, and etc. The church also started getting into digital media as Deseret Digital Media was established. So the church was trying to keep up with the times, to catch up. There were this was with Monson, because Hinckley died in 2008, and Monson is a print press guy, and so yeah, that's why he was going full on with new print stuff editions. Hinckley being the public relations for the church, followed by Monson, who was the printing part of it. And so, let's see, 2010, I got the church in some undesirable attention as Sister Wives came out for that season, TV season, on TLC, September 26th. They're a polygamous family in Utah, and they've been having struggles with the law here in Utah because of that show, as here in Utah we don't take kindly to others practicing polygamy. That's a Mormon thing. Also of note, August 29th, Thomas S. Monson went to Kiev, Ukraine to dedicate the temple. Now, if you're not understanding the significance of this, I hope you'll do me a favor, though. There's your clue. And so, 2011, Mitt Romney announces he's going to run for president. Remember the clue? And do me a favor, though. And here, Newsweek in 2011 on June 5th declares a Mormon Moment in America. The Book of Mormon musical came out on Broadway March 24th, and creators of South Park with their Mormon episode, just hilarious. And so the church is now getting criticism and ridicule. If you remember the 2008 election, the church got busted for interfering in the Prop 8 in California. The Wikipedia has been tampered with by the church to soften the whole significance of Prop 8, but you can't be actively involved in the campaigning of that, and the church violated laws and got busted for that. But with their power and influence, they were able to quash the lawsuits. And so this you need to understand as a background. And so then we get into 2012. Mitt Romney becomes the presidential nominee, but then he loses. But also in 2012, the City Creek Center opens. The mall, commercial arm of the LDS Church. with some controversy. Some. Some controversy. Okay. Which has me wondering, how long did it take? Because Kiev was 2010. Favor though? Billion? But Mormon feminists. Seriously? Mormon women. I have to take it to the extreme. We need to label them with an extreme title so that people know they're extreme. Feminist religious social movement concerned with the role of women in Mormonism. They want to wear the pants. So yeah, December 16th was Wear Pants to Church Day. Seriously, women, just wear pants. Screw the church. If they won't let you wear pants, it's not the true church. God. And personally, I really don't like the styles of women's slacks. If you understand that I come from a childhood education of women's fashion design, if you remember those videos, they're not flattering to any woman. Maybe pleats, but pleats are typically known for men. We'll have to work on this, won't we? Do a little fashion show at church. So, January 2013, the church starts a new curriculum, the Come Follow Me curriculum for youth Sunday school lessons. And in the Come Follow Me, which when it became available to the adults as well, I immediately recognized the horror. They had to have teachers be taught for the Come Follow Me instructions. And in there, the church utilizes psychological manipulation with non-dichotomous categorization questioning. And if you've not heard those videos of mine, it has to do with what is now being used on shopping sites to rate the product, different star ratings. That came from this non-dichotomous categorization. If you've taken the Russian app questionnaires as to which Disney princess are you, way back in 2016 with the presidential election, they ask you certain questions. Do you prefer to do this when you do this, or this, or this, or this? You get 4 choices. You may have also seen it in other areas where they have a survey that they want you to take. Anybody wants you to take. If they ask you questions online, if you would like to take a survey, or on the phones they'll ask you for a survey or whatever. They limit the answers you can give. That's what non-dichotomous is. That's the mind manipulation, the brainwashing, is because they force you into only the answers they want you to give. They don't allow you to write in your answer for the question. For example, CBS would send me a survey email asking for my help about a new show that came out, like Star Trek Discovery or other such shows. And I didn't get the opportunity to inform them of why I really like the show, and so I was forced to answer according to the way they wanted me to answer, and it was very frustrating. And other things are very frustrating with YouTube, for example, trying to communicate to YouTube when they send me a survey. They don't allow me to explain the real problem with YouTube. And so you'll see a lot of times answers like never, almost never, sometimes, and always. That's non-dichotomous. The ones that allow for a neutral position, I have no opinion one way or the other. Those are grateful. I'm grateful for, because I just put those throughout the whole thing, because they don't allow me to put in the actual answer that is needed for that question. And so Come Follow Me was doing that as well for teachers. They were having teachers test themselves using this non-dichotomous trap to get teachers brainwashed into a certain line of thinking in order to then teach in that manner of thinking to your students. And so it was designed to get teachers to actually do the reading of the scriptures, to utilize scriptures in the classroom and such, which is fine, but the church doesn't want you to actually do research on the scriptures. They just want you to trust the incorrect translation of the Bible when we do Bible scriptures, and the missing information from the Doctrine and Covenants, and the altered translation that we have about the Book of Mormon. And we never get involved with the Egyptian stuff in the Book of Abraham. So, it purposely is designed to conform and comply Mormons to what the church wants people to do for Sunday school lessons. And they were starting it with the youth. Understand what they were doing here? When you go after the youth first, you're trying to reprogram the new generation. And so then in 2013, the edited version of what we had worked on for the 2009 Spanish edition came out in English. And it was not a transformation to Guide to the Scriptures, but with its release online, there was a Guide to the Scriptures online as well that people could refer to. They don't want to do it in publication, though. It's because a certain Elder Ballard is not dead yet. He's the last remaining survivor of the original version back in 1979, 1981. It was released in 2 separate years when they finished them. For this version that came out in 2009, they released it all together, the Bible with the triple combination. And they had worked on the triple combination first before going to the Bible, which was what they recruited me for. And I had demonstrated my abilities such that I was put on the top committee, oversight committee, to review and make the final changes and edits to the finished product. We were the final draft, and So yeah, I am well aware of everything. And who is responsible for keeping homosexuality in the footnotes? David. And so the 2013 edition was just grammar. And it wasn't it wasn't anything to do with footnoting. See, they say print, or well, they don't say print errors. It's print editions. 2013, they made a big deal out of the first woman to give prayer at conference. Yeah, the church is sexist. And so, to have a woman give prayer, women have been giving talks long before this. So I don't understand. Prayer is always the loser who gives the prayers. That's how it was going through church. All the priesthood meetings that I went to, Sunday school meetings, it was always the losers in church who give the prayers. Unless the people volunteered. But if they were chosen, it was those that the teacher didn't like. And so, yeah, it's not a good thing to be recognized for giving prayer in church. And so, then in 2013, that's when the CES letter came out. Jeremy Runnels, they don't mention his name, and they don't link it. They're keeping it a secret. They do have footnotes. An author about his disciplinary council, 81 CES Letter Foundation. That was his thing that he did in 2019. And so they still won't mention his name. Bamboozled by CES Letter. Ash. So yeah, they're keeping Jeremy a secret. And I've done the video. I tried to do a series on that, but nobody cared. Jeremy, you little conniving weasel, he purposely was not doing his own research and going, gee, I wonder why there are multiple versions of the first vision. No, he found out from others, like the Tanners. And he was purposely putting all of the stuff that he thought would attack the church. And so, yes, that's why they excommunicated him. Disaffected. So, yeah. But here's another significant event that occurred. On June 23rd, 2013, LDS missionaries began online proselyting activities through social media. The church wanted to push the church to use social media to flood it with pro-church stuff. And so they were hoping that the church missionaries would contribute to this. And so I've seen, he's off his mission now, but a year or two ago, there was an elder so-and-so who would communicate with me on YouTube. I don't know why he's not still communicating with me off his mission. Maybe I shut him down when I condemned him for what he was doing as a missionary. But it didn't take too long. Well, 2015 into 16, 2015 I moved here, and it was in that summertime when I became, I was called what they call it here in the church, to be a ward mission leader, missionary. And so I became aware of some of the policies and rules of the missionaries at that time, as they were not allowed to look on certain social media sites anymore. Almost immediately after the church missionaries began utilizing social media, the church reined them in on that. And so how do you control missionaries with their use of social media? The church can't put in a program banning other channels on YouTube, for example. They have to do an on your honor thing where the missionary is only supposed to use the church sites and such, but that one missionary thought he would stray. Here in September 2013, they don't mention it. Interesting. It was 2012 when ABC 4 News Utah came out with their infamous reporting about how the church was losing the 11 million. So this was a year before the release of the Gospel Topics essays. And in that clip, forgetting his name, he was my Book of Mormon teacher at Rick's College. But he told the press that he believed that there's really only about 5 million active membership. And he was rounding it off, obviously. And when it's a guy, he over exaggerates. Women under exaggerate. And so we know that it's less than 5 million. I confirmed that when I did my stat thing in 2019. When the April conference was over, and I had to pay attention because the church no longer was publishing in conference their statistical reports anymore. They stopped that with 2018 and Nelson. And I remember the video in which, according to the number of stakes and wards, which you don't count stakes, you count the wards and the branches, because they have certain number of maximum capacity before they need to split. And I had one guy comment that his ward is overflowing. Therefore, the rest of the church around the world is overflowing. No. That's a small sampling fallacy. And so, all things equal, the actual number of active membership, according to the number of wards and branches, actual buildings, indicated around 3 million active membership. And so, yeah, he was well over exaggerating. But that was back in 2012, and here I am, 2019, doing that research. And so, so 2019, they were claiming 16 million, and thus 13 million have now been lost in the church to active membership. So that needs to be understood before we get into the Gospel Topics essays. Now here they say September essays begin to be published to the church's website about controversial gospel topics, such as polygamy, race, violence. Oh, violence is discussed? Oh, I wonder which one it is. Which one covers violence in the church? I want to be a Mormon violent. So here are the gospel topics lists. Are Mormons Christian? Becoming like God? Book of Mormon and DNA studies, Book of Mormon translation, First Vision accounts, Joseph Smith's teachings about priesthood, temple, and women, Mother in Heaven, peace and violence among 19th century Latter-day Saints, plural marriage in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, race in the priesthood, translation and historicity of the Book of Abraham. So yeah, just the one, violence. I'm going over how the Mormons were so violent. And so, where does John Dehlin come in all of this? John Dehlin does not come up until 2014. June. Kate Kelly and John Dehlin are notified of church discipline for advocacy on certain controversial church issues. What, you mean the Gospel Topics essays? Among similar reports of others facing discipline, Jeremy Reynolds. But his took a little bit longer for his excommunication. The wording here on October 20th, 2015 has me puzzled. Dehlin H. Oakes publicly disagrees with refusing gay marriages. What? In violation of the recent Supreme Court ruling? So Dehlin H. Oakes is in favor of gay marriage? Come on, guys. Put it in here correctly. Dehlin H. Oakes is a homophobe. He literally thinks that the gay agenda is going to change him and destroy his marriage, turn him gay. He will no longer desire his wife. Oh no, I'm now gay. How have I fallen? It's just hilarious. And the leaked videos of the apostles in their meetings on Mormon Leaks, oh, just hilarious. They're all talking about the gay agenda. Back when Packer was in the presidency. Oh, man. Gays are gonna make me gay. We need to stop them. We need to be violent. We're not going down there because that's going into dark territory. But there's some comedy that has come out. Need to stop. Don't go there. So let's go over briefly, I've gone over all of these on my videos, correcting the information, but not referring to Gospel Topics essays. Are Mormons Christians? Hell no. I've been going over for a long time all the many reasons why Mormons are not Christians. Just because the Book of Mormon says, oh, they were a band of believers in Christ, and therefore they were called Christian by their unbelieving neighbors. Yeah, no. First Nephi chapter 1, verse 2. The learning of the Jews. It's a big difference. And so, but here, yeah, they're trying to fool Mormons as well as people in the world. As missionaries can then refer to this. Oh, see, it says right here in the Gospel Topics essays under Are Mormons Christians that we are Christians, so you're wrong. We're the true Christians. You're a fake Christian. God. So becoming like God. I've gone over that. Other preachers have gone over that, as it's called the impossible gospel, I think it is. Doesn't sound right, but it's something like that, the impossible gospel, where Mormons have contradictions in their thinking processes versus what's in Scripture, and Mormons can't reconcile them to the satisfaction of investigators. Book of Mormon and DNA studies. It's clear. You first have to, there's problems with this, with DNA studies, because which group of Native American Indians are you going to use? Are you going to use United States Indians? Are you going to use Canadian Indians? Alaskan Indians? Mexican Indians? Are you going to use Central American Indians? South American Indians? Which group are you going to be testing? Are you going to test all of them? You should test all of them. It'd be nice. Everybody should have their DNA tested to find out their origins. But for the United States indigenous people, China, as well as Vikings, but the core come from China. And so people assume the Bering Strait theory, disregarding the Chinese boats that are capsized or sunk off the California coastline. So China has been in America for a long time. We're talking 300 AD when China was sailing into America. And so the actual origin is not quite known, which I don't understand why, because DNA, well, if China is where the indigenous people of America come from, then you test the DNA of the Chinese. Where do the Chinese come from? Egypt. Oh, okay. The indigenous people of America are from Egypt. That explains a lot, doesn't it? All the pyramid structures down in Central and South America. Wow. Okay. Now we know. But even if they confirm Jewish ancestry, which, again, modern Jew? No. No. Pre-captivity Jew. Science is legitimate, but you have to use it correctly. You can't twist it for your own agenda, whether it's anti or pro some agenda. The church are trying to twist the DNA results from the twisted DNA results. Because the church has not properly established who the church is and what the Book of Mormon is all about. They've lied. And so, based on the lie, the DNA studies confirm, yeah, you guys are lying. The Book of Mormon is not what you're claiming it is. But when we come out and say, okay, it's fiction, we shouldn't have done the DNA in the first place, it's a different issue. But yeah, there's lots more to talk about that. I mean, for example, the new template used for the Book of Mormon after the 116 pages were destroyed by Martin Harris utilized a fiction novel by an author who created his story based upon the abandoned indigenous site in western New York, around Michigan, and thus why a lot of the names are carried over into his book and thus into the Book of Mormon, especially the locations of each of the places, because he literally, it's obvious, he went to those locations, got it all written down, and then proceeded to write his fiction as to explain why the place is abandoned. And yeah, he just made up the story. That's how good fiction works, is you have something that has questions about it, its origins and such, and a good fiction writer will take advantage of that to and back then people wanted to know about the indigenous people that they were murdering with blankets with diseases on them, and murdering and enslaving, so that they can know about the people that they were destroying their lives. And so yeah, his book would have been a great seller back in that day. It's just he didn't have the money to publish it. And so Sidney Rigdon, being one who loved to read and obtain books for his library, hung out in Pittsburgh at the print press for that purpose. Any new releases getting published, he'd buy them. And in the case of Solomon Spaulding's manuscript, he died, and the press can't publish it, and so there's nothing they can do with it. And so yeah, Sidney Rigdon took it, and there's no nefarious plot in any of that. It's just he loved books. There was a book, the press couldn't do anything with it, the family didn't come to claim it, they may not have even known that he had sent it to the publisher to be published. But yeah, the press could only destroy it, throw it away, if nobody was going to take it off their hands, because they can't do anything with it. So it's nothing nefarious, as some have tried to hope. But when you understand why it was used as the new template, you have to understand what the first template was, and why Martin Harris destroyed it, and why it was necessary to find another template for the Book of Mormon. The first vision accounts, I've gone over with you on that. Numbers chapter 12, verse 6. That's why we have the canon version of 1838. And it didn't happen. I told you, it's coded. Just like the Book of Mormon is coded. Just like the Book of Abraham is even coded. And Doctrine and Covenant Joseph Smith's teachings about priesthood, temple, and women. I've gone over that with you as it's a lie. All a lie. Because it's the Brighamite accusations of Joseph rather than actual Joseph's versions of priesthood, temple, and women. Because priesthood, it was designed to create a counter army to go up against the GOP, who are taking over our United States right now with the Union of States. Did you know that? No, of course you didn't. You don't listen to my videos. That's what the Smiths were doing. That's why the Book of Mormon was written as it was written. Why it was encoded is because they knew of the plot to overthrow America right now. And so it was necessary to create an organization to recruit to one day rise up and fight to save America, to save the Constitution from hanging by a thread. Remember that? But where are they? Church was taken over, wasn't it? And so it's the priesthood of Amun. It's the Egyptian priesthood. I've gone over that with you as well. Temple, Egyptian temple ordinances. The endowment ceremony, I've been telling you over and over again. Brigham Young, not Joseph. All those loyalty oaths, polygamy, Eves dancing around naked. They had larger speaking roles. So why are feminists complaining? Women just can't be satisfied. We gave you bigger speaking roles, but they're naked. Well, yeah, it says in the Bible they're naked. Joseph Smith's temple, washing and anointings. That's it. He made Mormons Christs. That's why Mormons are not Christian. And then women. Women got the priesthood. March 17th, 1842. And I've gone over other reasons why that date is significant. And so Mother in Heaven. Notice it's in the singular. Because when it came out by the Brighamites, it became Mothers in Heaven. And so, yeah, I've told you about the scandal about the presidents of the church, Melchizedek priesthood, and Relief Society lessons under Brigham Young, the first one that came out. I'm well aware of who was put into that committee who worked on those projects. And so I know exactly who did what in which chapter, in which book. But with Brigham Young, they were trying to talk about marriage relations, I think. And it talked about, in Brigham Young's original talk, where he announced we're now practicing polygamy, he talks about Adam bringing one of his wives into the garden. Edited out for the purpose of the manual. We are not going to talk about polygamy. And so, yeah, that was a big scandal right from the beginning of the very first new project they were doing. And then peace and violence among the 19th century Latter-day Saints. There were the Danites. Brigham Young recruited those of the Scottish Rites, Freemasonry, who had been infiltrated by the Illuminati, thus the Book of Mormon, thus the need for a new template from Martin Harris destroying the 116 pages, because he was not comfortable with all the Freemasonry stuff in the first template from William Morgan. And so the Danites found out, Heber C. Kimball found out that the Smiths were involved. Just look under Heber C. Kimball in Wikipedia under Masonry. Your horror should rise up, the fear going down your spine as you realize how evil Heber C. Kimball is, who is the one who got it all organized and had Brigham Young brought in to be the spokesperson for the group, the leader, as he became the counselor. And I know exactly those type of people, having grown up in Southern California. I saw that a lot of times. People wanting somebody else to be the guy, and they just want to be the one controlling the situation, giving their input as to how things should be run. And when they joined, they were immediately sent out on missions by Joseph Smith. They didn't follow Joseph Smith's rule of 2 by 2. They broke off at times. Brigham Young did it so that he can have sex with married women while the husband was away at work, on the farm or wherever he went to work. And so lots of reporting of children who said, yeah, I saw mommy go into the bedroom with Brigham Young, and then he'd come out an hour later. It's interesting that he lasted an hour. But nonetheless, he's a sexual deviant. And it's no excuse to say that he was heartbroken with the death of his wife and therefore needed other women to seek comfort with, to the point of raping and adultery. It's uncalled for. You find another sweet girl and you marry her. Nonetheless, what they did on their missions was go back to all those Scottish Rites areas where the Scottish Rites members were furious as to the anti-Mason movement that burned down their temples, causing them to go underground. And they were wanting revenge. They were already plotting to take over America. Now they wanted revenge for whoever was responsible for this. Heber C. Kimball found out from the Book of Mormon. He found out it was the Smiths. Like I said, Wikipedia, Heber C. Kimball, under Masonry. And if you can't figure it out, Canandaigua. He says he goes to Canandaigua to seek the Royal Ark degree. Who in Canandaigua? It would have been the Master Mason. So who? Why don't they list it? Now go to Joseph Smith Sr., Wikipedia. In the opening paragraphs. Oh, Canandaigua. Isn't that interesting? Oh, he's just a member. Are we sure he's just a member? Pure evil. The Danites were the violence. They were the secret combination within the church. They rose up into power. That's why I've told you over and over again, I'm the guy who has labeled 1838 as the leadership crisis. That's when they were activated. They got Joseph Smith distracted with jail, getting him falsely accused because of their actions. And so once they got him in jail, they then struck. They attacked the leadership of the church, chased out Thomas B. Marsh out of the traveling 12 missionaries, and then they voted to put Brigham Young as the president. When Joseph Smith got out of jail in 1839, he went to the 12 and condemned them for what they had done to the good man, calling Brigham Young Judas. Brigham Young and Joseph Smith were not friends. Don't believe the church when they come out and tell you that false information. Brigham Young despised Joseph Smith, and Joseph Smith knew what Brigham Young was up to. He specifically condemned him for exalting himself at the expense of the good man. Willard Richards is the one recording it, and so obviously he did not put the names. Willard Richards being the one who murdered Joseph Smith. And so that's the real history of violence. It has nothing to do with, oh, we're trying to practice our religion and have sex with 10 virgins. No, it's the Danites who caused the problem. And so then plural marriage. Heber C. Kimball. Go over his wives. He has one wife, his main wife, but then in his list of wives, he has another wife. And she is 1829, I believe. List of wives. Familypedia, or would it be in Wikipedia? I do have the gw.genianet.org. That one has been looked at. Was married to 43 wives. Let's check this out. Yep, there we go. Okay. There's his parents, spouses, and children. 1822, he married Violet Murray. And then had a certain number of kids. Into 1850, he had Murray Gold Kimball. It only lasted 2 years, but you can see that that first wife carried on through into Utah. Then married 12 February 1829. Wait a minute. 1850, Murray Gold Kimball was born to his first wife, Violet Murray. Here in 1829, he's married to Sarah Perry Peak. Huh. See? He's already a polygamist before joining the church. The Book of Mormon condemns polygamy 4 times. Joseph Smith's 1835 Doctrine and Covenants condemned polygamy twice. He had a chapter on monogamous marriage, and section 131 in our current scriptures has been gutted by Brigham Young the year before he died. You have to go to the Joseph Smith Papers to see that the missing information was him, Joseph Smith, talking to a couple, a man and one woman, saying that when you get sealed in the temple, you can become exalted in the life hereafter, in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. One man, one woman? Well, we have to gut that, don't we? And replace it with 132, 10 virgins, necessary for the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. God's law, which Nelson changed the law of chastity to say, well, it's no longer legally and lawfully, it's according to his law, God's law. What's God's law? Section 132. Because the church isn't getting rid of it. They're not putting back Section 131. They're not putting back Joseph Smith's monogamy chapter. Nelson was so pissed. And so here, 27 July 1842, Heber C. Kimball marries Sarah Ann Whitney. No. No. Joseph Smith was fleeing from the law. He wasn't doing sealings. So, yes, there was an underground polygamy ring going on. It wasn't Joseph. It was Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball and the Danites. But the church will not release that information. But right there, Apostle Heber Chase Kimball, this is the family genealogy thing for the Kimballs. Anybody related to the Kimballs, they can go to this. It's Geneanet. It's Rebecca Ann Paleo Moreno's family tree. And so, yeah, they got links to all the children here, and have the parents listed. They even say Latter-day Saints, Church Apostle, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, blacksmith, potter, church leader, civic leader, rancher, Satan worshiper, treasonous traitor. And so all the information you've been taught about Joseph Smith being polygamist, raping 14-year-old girls, etc., lies. All lies. Heber C. Kimball. Study on him. Race in the Priesthood. This was a missionary pamphlet that we handed out in New York, on my mission. I already knew about race in the priesthood. When I was finally told, hey, did you know about race in the priesthood from the Gospel Topic Essays? Oh, yeah, long time ago. And the guy looked at me weird, and I didn't understand why he looked at me weird. Race in the Priesthood was a pamphlet. It was one of the apostles had written it, like Packer or somebody. And that's all that is. It may be reworded. I don't know. I don't have the original pamphlet to compare it with. But, being in New York, there were one or two who were possibly black. And just in case those one or two wanted to investigate the church, we had a pamphlet for them. And then here's where I play a big part, where John Dehlin is trying to usurp the glory on this for chasing out Mormons. The church had come out with this in 2013, but there was already some problems as 2012 a massive exodus of active membership just going inactive, as it's called. They want to call it less active now. Screw that. It's inactive. We want nothing to do with the church. But translation and historicity of the Book of Abraham. Were you not paying attention when I talked to you about the 2009 edition of the Spanish language edition? I have been a major influencer within the church, and nobody has known about it. I have been involved in informing the church that Joseph Smith is a translator since 1998. They decided to call me a troublemaker. I've shown you that section from my indefinite incarceration for being a terrorist. That's what the church called me, a terrorist, because I said Joseph Smith is a translator. Give me back my kids. And that whole decade, from 1998 to 2008, I had been going around telling Mormons, yeah, Joseph Smith is a translator. It's awesome. I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. Oh, hey, I've deciphered Egyptian petroglyphs now. Joseph Smith is a translator. Isn't that great? And I've been having to deal with Mormons. Oh, you're not the president of the church, Travis. You can't translate ancient languages. Huh? I did. And so, yes, Mormons throughout the valley here have known about me and my work, but nobody understands it. And nobody dared understand it because of the fear that the church has put on Utah Mormons. Nobody wanted to know. And there wasn't Google search back then. But I'm now rendered single through divorce, and was able to talk to a lot of women who asked the golden question, so what do you do for a living? Can't you ask something like, what do you like to do, rather than what do you get paid for and how much do you get paid? So that I can evaluate whether you're good enough to pursue a dating relationship with and eventually pursue marriage, so that you can sustain me in the lifestyle I want to live. You know that's why you do that. Don't try fooling us. And so, yeah, I'm having to tell women on a regular basis that I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. And so the women in Utah know about me, even if they don't remember me, because they don't see translation as a lucrative presider career field. But it could be now. I'd have to get Amazon out of the grasp of the church, because the church invests in Amazon, and I was getting $400 a month. I had risen my royalties that much, and then all of a sudden, boom, just tanked. So yes, something happened to shut me down, to keep me from continuing my royalties at an increasing rate. But the majority of my sales were from Paleo-Hebrew research that I was publishing. Not Egyptian research, though. Not too many people are interested in Egyptian. More people are interested in Paleo-Hebrew. And so, yeah, I could have gone on to continue with vocabulary and given translation examples and all that stuff. So I could have easily gotten into a modest business of it, supplementing it with other stuff along the way. But yeah, all that's ruined as we're now in the end of the world. Translation and historicity of the Book of Abraham. John Gee, who is the unknown author, comes out and claims Joseph Smith never claimed to be a translator, despite numerous texts saying he did claim it, and actually studied Hebrew, studied Greek, studied German, studied... so yes, he does claim to be a translator. So it's a blatant lie that John Gee is telling, but says that it was just revelation. That's why the church, if you were wondering, they never give as a title for the president of the church or any of the apostles that of translator. Never. Since Brigham Young took over, created his own religion, blaming Joseph Smith for it, never did they use translator ever again. And it was only that Elder Richards, the mission president out in England, who joined the Brighamites when he returned back. And he had done his own thing with the little pamphlet that he handed out in England. And so he brought that pamphlet with him, and that became the Pearl of Great Price. That's the only reason why we have the facsimiles of the Book of Abraham. Because without Richards, we wouldn't have it. They didn't care about it. And they don't want the Book of Mormon, but that's the only way to keep Mormons to come with them. They then created prophecies of Joseph Smith to justify it. Oh yeah, Joseph Smith said we were going to go to the Rocky Mountains. He was on the lam at the time. But yeah, I heard him. He said it. Just like all the secret polygamy he was practicing to justify why we're practicing polygamy. Yeah. And so I'm the one responsible for translation and historicity of the Book of Abraham. Gee wrote that in response to what I had been spreading around Utah all these years. I went to his and John Dvetness's Book of Abraham Symposium way back in 1990s, where I had already communicated with John Tvetness over the phone, and he said over the phone, and it's hearsay, I said, he said thing, he denies it, he did deny it in public, he said Joseph Smith was wrong. And so I humiliated him with just a simple little question. As I set it up for, it appears that the King Follett Discourse tends to support the theme of what you're doing here in this lecture series, the Book of Abraham, his retranslation that he gave in the King Follett Discourse from the Hebrew text of the Bible. The whole crowd is, and it was an overflow crowd. There was videos set up to project over into the other overflow room. And there I was in the middle of the class, in the lecture, the only one raising my hand for a question, and I bring that up and then say, alright, I didn't ask a question actually, I just brought that up, that Joseph Smith's revision of the Hebrew text of the Bible would support this lecture that you're giving. And he then chuckled, oh, you're probably referring to the King Follett Discourse in which Joseph Smith was and he did da. Was Joseph Smith incorrect with his translation? I never said that. Oh? I think you did now. And so, yeah, everybody was like, oh my God, oh, what's going on? The girl sitting next to me said, that was a very good question. And then another guy, as people were trying to leave, he thought he would come over and explain to me Hebrew. And so I immediately shut him down and said, I know what I was asking. And he was like, and left. And was humiliated in front of the other girl. But the girl then came the next night for John Gee's lecture with a date. So we all know what that means, don't we, girls? She had said that she had taken a class from John Gee. So, yeah. But that's basically it. I mean, how many hours have I gone on now? 2? Yeah, hour and 17 minutes. And so, John Dehlin does not have the influence that he thinks he has. He has a big influence. Over 100,000 people view his videos, or subscribers, I don't know. But it's interesting how he tries to exalt himself to get public attention. And it's good because it attacks the current church, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know the real history. The people he gets interviews with, they don't know the real history. And he perpetuates the lies of Brigham Young. That's all he's doing. And it's causing damage to Joseph Smith rather than damage to the current church. And that's why the church doesn't do anything about it. You know, they excommunicated him, they just laugh. Now people are going to hate us because we got rid of him, and Mormons are going to shun him as an apostate. We played him. But me, you've never heard of me. You don't know anything about my history. And you've heard me talk about the guy from Riverton who was told by my parents that I'm a terrorist. He thinks I'm a bad guy, that I'm evil. Now I need to be silenced and shut down. He threatened my life in his comment to me. But, yeah, the church, no, they do not want the spotlight on me. They do not want attention drawn to me. Because what'll happen is it'll destroy them. Why are you persecuting a Mormon who says that Joseph Smith is a translator? Why are you saying he's wrong when he confirms Joseph is an actual translator? The church is trapped. That's why they need to keep me a secret. That's why I was indefinitely detained for 6 years of my life. It was supposed to be forever. The church wants me gone. That's why I've been getting death threats, etc. And so, if John Dehlin truly wants to hurt the church, make me public. Put me in the spotlight. And the church will crumble instantly. This video just was a sampling of what I know to destroy the church with. These videos, hour after hour after hour, can all be combined together against the church. They are murdering you right now with this coronavirus. They are the cause. This was the initial video I was going to do this morning about how Nelson took away your agency using this virus to do it. This is how evil they are. But don't get distracted thinking that it goes to Joseph Smith. Like I told you, Heber C. Kimball. And anybody who's complicit, but he's the one who figured it out. And then started the secret group within Mormonism.